The press conference was supposed to be routine. A few questions about her singles campaign. A few about her withdrawal from doubles with Venus Williams. A few about her upcoming match against Jung Chinwon. Alex Eala had answered them all with her characteristic grace and composure. But then came the question that would change everything. A reporter asked about her previous criticism of the WTA, her comments about the organization needing to do more for players from developing nations, her frustration with being treated as a statistic rather than a human being, her call for accountability and change. Eala paused. She took a breath. And she didn't back down. I stand by what I said, she replied. The WTA needs to do better. And I'm not going to apologize for speaking the truth. The room fell silent. Because these words would not go unnoticed. These words would not be ignored. Within hours, the WTA responded. Not with a statement. Not with a diplomatic press release. With an ultimatum. Apologize for your remarks or forget about the DC Open. The tennis world exploded. Fans were furious. Players were divided. And Alex Eala, the 21-year-old Filipina who had conquered Wimbledon's center court, who had climbed to world number 28, who had become the biggest draw in women's tennis, had just been given an impossible choice. Apologize for telling the truth. Or walk away from the biggest tournament of her North American swing. This is the story of how a champion stood her ground, and the tennis establishment tried to silence her. Welcome to RallyVerse. The pre-tournament press conference at the Mubadala DC Open was meant to be straightforward. Eala had already generated headlines by withdrawing from the doubles event with Venus Williams, citing her need to focus on singles after a grueling grass-court season that culminated in her historic Wimbledon run. I have so much respect for Venus, Eala had explained. I am so grateful for every opportunity that I have to be around her, to learn from her, to hit with her. But I do think this is my first week coming back, and I think that Venus is someone who deserves a partner who can give their all physically, emotionally, mentally when they are on court with her. The answer was diplomatic. The answer was respectful. The answer was classic Eala. But then the conversation shifted. A reporter, aware of Eala's previous criticisms of the WTA, asked whether she still stood by her comments about the organization needing to do more for players from developing nations. Whether she still believed the WTA treated players as statistics rather than human beings. Whether she still believed the organization needed to be held accountable. Eala didn't hesitate. I stand by what I said, she replied. The WTA needs to do better. They need to invest more in developing countries. They need to make tennis accessible to everyone, not just the privileged few. And I'm not going to apologize for speaking the truth. The room fell silent. Because these words would not go unnoticed. These words would not be ignored. Within hours, the WTA had issued its response. Not a diplomatic statement. Not a measured press release. An ultimatum. Apologize for your remarks or forget about the DC Open. The news spread like wildfire. The WTA had reportedly informed Eala's team that she must issue a public apology for her criticism of the organization or risk being barred from competing in the Mubadala DC Open. The ultimatum was unprecedented. No player had ever been given such a choice, apologize or be excluded. The tennis world was outraged. Fans took to social media to defend Eala. She spoke the truth. One fan wrote. The WTA is trying to silence a player who dared to criticize them. This is unacceptable. Another wrote, Alex Eala is a hero. She's standing up for what's right. The WTA should be ashamed of themselves. Other players weighed in as well. Some expressed solidarity with Eala, praising her courage in speaking truth to power. Others suggested she should issue a carefully worded apology to avoid derailing her career. But Eala had already made her position clear. Earlier in the year, she had been fined $50,000 by the WTA for signing a waiver to play in Birmingham after they advised her to withdraw. She had been overlooked for tournament entries. She had been excluded from elite player development camps. And she had had enough. People don't know what happened before the game, she had said after her Wimbledon loss to Jasmine Paolini. They never know the whole story. The words were a window into the battles she had been fighting behind the scenes, battles that the public never saw. Now, the battle was in the open. And the WTA had made its move. The ultimatum placed Eala in an impossible position. On one hand, she could apologize, issue a carefully worded statement expressing regret for any offense caused, reaffirming her commitment to the WTA, and moving on with her career. It would be the safe choice. The smart choice. The choice that would allow her to focus on tennis without distraction. On the other hand, she could refuse. She could stand by her words. She could show the world that she would not be silenced by an organization that had treated her unfairly. It would be the brave choice. The principled choice. The choice that would define her legacy far beyond tennis. The choice was hers. And the tennis world was watching. Eala had already proven she could handle pressure. She had saved 2 set points against Iga Swiatek on center court. She had become the first Filipino to reach the 4th round of a Grand Slam in the Open era. She had carried the weight of an entire nation on her shoulders without crumbling. But this was different. This wasn't about tennis. This was about principle. This was about standing up for what she believed in, even if it cost her everything. There is no reason to have male bodies in female sports, Martina Navratilova had recently said in defense of the WTA's genetic testing policy. The tennis world was deeply divided on issues of fairness, privacy, and the rights of athletes. Eala's criticism of the WTA had touched on these very divisions. And now, the organization was trying to silence her. As news of the ultimatum spread, the support for Eala was overwhelming. Filipino fans from across the United States had already flocked to Washington to see her play. They had come from Maryland, from Virginia, from all across the East Coast. They had waved Philippine flags and chanted her name at her practice sessions. They had waited for hours just to catch a glimpse of their hero. Now, they took to social media to defend her. Alex Eala is not just a tennis player, one fan wrote. She is a symbol of hope for every Filipino who has ever dreamed of achieving something big. And we will not let the WTA silence her. Stand your ground, Alex. Another wrote. The whole Philippines is behind you. Other players reached out to express their solidarity. Some had faced similar battles with the WTA. Others simply admired Eala's courage in speaking up. I want to make tennis better for the next generation, Eala had said after her press conference remarks. I don't want Filipino kids to have to leave their families at 13 years old to chase a dream. I want them to have opportunities in their own country. And the WTA can help make that happen. The words were a reminder of why she had spoken out in the first place. It wasn't about personal glory. It wasn't about gaining attention. It was about creating a better future for the players who would come after her. And she wasn't going to back down. The ultimatum hung over the tournament like a dark cloud. Eala's first round match against Zheng Qinwen was just days away. The decision had to be made. But Eala had already made her choice. In a statement released to the press, she addressed the ultimatum directly. I have always believed that the WTA can do more to support players from developing tennis nations, she said. I have always believed that players deserve to be treated as human beings, not just statistics. And I have always believed that speaking the truth is more important than staying silent. I am grateful for the opportunity to compete in the Mubadala DC Open. But I will not apologize for speaking the truth. I will not apologize for standing up for what I believe in. And I will not let anyone silence me. The tennis world erupted. Some called her a hero. Others called her reckless. But no one could deny the courage of her conviction. From the cracked courts of Quezon City to ward number 28. From a 13-year-old girl alone in Spain to a national hero celebrated by presidents and adored by millions. From being told she couldn't do it to standing up to the most powerful organization in tennis. Alex Eala had defied every expectation. And now, she had proven that she would not be silenced. What happened next would define her career. But regardless of the outcome, one thing was certain, Alex Eala had already won. Not the match. Not the tournament. But something far more important. She had won the right to speak her truth. And no ultimatum could ever take that away. Leben lang. Always. And remember, on RallyVerse, we bring you the stories that define the sport, the drama, the courage, the moments that change everything. Stay tuned for more.